Inner Light, where we illuminate the secret path within. Today's guest is Bob Sweetman, author, seeker, and spiritual guide whose mission began with a divine dream to clean the water. Through years of study and reflection, Bob found clarity in one of the most profound teachings in human history, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. His book, the way unpacks these teachings not as lofty ideals, but as a daily path for inner transformation and divine alignment. Welcome to the show, Bob. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much, Anya. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mhm. So, Bob, your journey started with a dream that led you to a 4 year spiritual education. What did clear the water mean to you then, and how has that evolved since?
Yeah, Uh, quite frankly, I didn't understand what clear the water meant. Um, it, as I explained in my dream, uh, I was told I asked what I could do, um, and I believe it was the voice of God said you can help clear the water. And I looked down and I was ankle deep in water, but it was glowing uh, with a golden yellow color instead of clear, like stagnant. So, like I said, I really didn't understand what that meant, um, and it took me well over 5 years to really start to comprehend what that could mean.
Mm-hmm. Right. And in what way did the Sermon on the Mount stand out from everything else you studied?
Yeah, when you look at the Sermon on the Mount and in context of the other four gospel, well, the four gospels that are in the New Testament, um, that's the only place that uh, is a written a total description of what um, it means to live a God pleasing life. And I mean, there's snippets all throughout the gospel, but this one place um, really lays out what it takes to live that kind of life.
Mm-hmm. And that image of clearing muddied water feels especially relevant in today's complex spiritual landscape.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. There are so many distractions, I would say. Um, there's so many things or so many different beliefs that can be complicated, and in some cases people just throw up their hands and say, I don't know what to believe. I'm just going to live my life. um, and I believe that's kind of the core of clearing the water, is to come up with a simple, understandable message um, of what it means to live a good life.
100%. And you described the Sermon on the Mount as a step by step guide. Can you walk us through how it offers a progression, not just principles?
Sure. Um, so the first part of the Sermon on the Mount is what is known as the Beatitudes, where Jesus says, for example, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." Um, and when you dig into that, you realize that poor in spirit is talking about your recognition that you're not in control. Um, you rely on God, you rely on other people to to get by in your life. And once you realize that, then then you truly become poor in spirit. Um, so the next step is, Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn." Well, obviously, someone uh, close to you dies, then you're going to mourn. But the other part of mourning is when you realize what you have done or not done, which has hurt um, other people or um, has offended God, then uh, then you mourn what you've done. Um, and so every step of the Beatitudes, there's actually nine of them. Every one of those steps is a progression um, towards becoming, um, towards shedding your ego based dualistic mindset and transforming to an accepting um, and non ego based person. So basically, that's what the step by step is all about. And then there's sections that Jesus kind of gives us examples and areas that we should apply to our lives. So it's only three chapters. It's not very long, but it's like I said, it's got everything that's needed to transform your life.
That's amazing. But where do most people get stuck in that progression and why?
Yeah, I think most people um, are are kind of fixated on the rules and the beliefs of their particular um, belief set, if you will. I mean, there's some that are just so distracted by the world, the TikTok generation and so forth. Um, Other people have different reasons for getting hung up, but it takes work, and you have to concentrate on what you're doing and how you're doing it, and that's why I think the Beatitudes are so important because they take it one step at a time, and uh, by concentrating on each step, you can actually overcome those roadblocks that are preventing you from moving forward.
That's powerful. Transforming lofty scriptures into living guidance anyone can follow.
That's correct. Yes.
And much of modern Christianity feels distant or dogmatic to many. How does your interpretation invite people back into a more intimate and accessible faith?
Yeah. I think it's not trying to come up with a new denomination or something like that. It's more of for those folks that really can't find a connection or something to latch onto with their faith. Um, by offering a simple message uh, and a way forward, it is a way for them to reconnect, if, or connect, depending on what what their history's been. But that is that's that's the reason I wrote this book, and I think that's why or um, what that progression is good for.
Makes sense. And do you think we need less theology and more embodied in today's spiritual culture?
Yeah, I do. Uh, when if you do a Google search, um, it says that about 45 there are about 45,000 Christian denominations throughout the world. In the U.S. alone, it's 200, and every one of those denominations kind of approaches things a little bit differently. They have their own belief sets. Some have a lot more um, procedures and ways of doing things, um, and that has become very distracting in my mind, um, especially for the people that are looking for some kind of um, guidance or correct or connection to their spirituality. So that's why a simple message, I believe, is important right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's refreshing to reframe faith not as belief alone, but as a lived and felt experience.
Yes, the, the spirituality part of it is very important. Um, the as we know, the the, the spirit it is fundamentally um, us, and the rest of it is just a flesh suit, as they say.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And humility, mercy, peacemaking. The Beatitudes are counterculture. How can we embody these traits in a world that often rewards ego, division, and dominance?
Yeah, the what I call the standards for living that Jesus presents in the Sermon on the Mount uh, give us tools for when we encounter certain circumstances. Um, for example, he says, uh, "Not do not judge, or you'll be judged yourself." So rather than judging, we should discern um, what the situation is, why a certain person did something, why a certain person looks the way they do, or is sitting by on the street with a can in their hand looking for money. Um, that's that's part of living the way that Jesus has presented in the Sermon on the Mount. If that makes sense.
Mhm. Absolutely does. But is it truly possible to live in this way in today's fast paced, often ruthless world?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. Um, I would say yes, um, as long as you keep concentrating on on your path. Um, I would point back to the first 100 years or so of Christianity, where um, the Christians of those times were persecuted. Um, they were, um, some cases, they're actually put to death or tortured. Um, but in spite of that, they kept uh, to their belief, their way of doing things, um, and they persevered.
Mhm. It's a radical invitation to be soft in a hard world. And yet, that's where transformation begins.
That's correct. Um, the old Chinese saying that a a walk of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Um, and it's all about making your mind up that you're going to transform and taking that first step. So, in spite of the difficulties, as long as you persevere, you're going to be in good.
So, what does a God pleasing life look like in action? Like, not just in ritual or belief, but in ordinary moments.
Yeah, I would think that things like um, showing kindness, not judging people, um, not trying to display your religion, your piety, but doing that yourself, your inner connection with God. Um, I think those are the things that um, that kind of are hallmarks for that kind of God pleasing life that I talk about.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And what has changed most in your own life as a result of walking this path?
Yeah, I think looking on looking back before I started to do this, I was a lot more concentrated on just the actions, doing the no going to church on Sunday and so forth. But uh, starting this inner transformation myself, I can see that I approach things differently um, from a really a discerning point of view. Uh, I I see the connection of God to a lot of the things in the world, um, and I think I'm more at peace with myself um, as a result of this journey.
And that's the real miracle. How divine truth reshapes the everyday.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, I believe that. Yes.
So, Bob, thank you so much for reminding us that the deepest truths are often the simplest. The Sermon on the Mount isn't just scripture, it's an inner roadmap. And to our listeners, if you have felt disconnected, disillusioned, or spiritually stuck, perhaps the answer isn't more, but less. Less noise, less striving, more presence, more heart. So until next time, keep walking your own way, one soul lit step at a time.